Hello YouTube, thank you for tuning in. It's about 3:40 p.m. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you about tolerance. Tolerance is the ability to be fair and respectful towards people whose lifestyle, opinions, and values are different from your own. According to this definition, a tolerant person treats people who live and thinks differently than them considerately. They won't have a nasty attitude towards someone simply because that person lives or thinks differently than them. They are impartial in the way they behave towards people. A tolerant person has the ability to disagree with different values and still be respectful towards the person who holds those different values. A tolerant person doesn't compromise their values or move their standards to agree or be accepted by people who are different than them. So this is what tolerance actually is. It's being respectful in the face of differences and disagreements. True tolerance is essential in a pluralistic, diverse society like America. The only way that we can express our diverse ways of life is if true tolerance exists. Unfortunately, true tolerance almost doesn't exist anymore. Intolerance is on the rise. An intolerant person treats people who thinks, believes, or lives differently than them in a disrespectful manner. In the eyes of an intolerant person, disagreements and differences are a justified reason to behave disrespectfully towards someone. Intolerance is rampant in America. We see examples of this on YouTube where people cuss, insult others, and flag videos simply because they don't like values, lifestyles, and opinions that are different than their own. It doesn't matter if the disposition of the video was respectful or not. The fact that they hear something that they don't agree with is reason enough for them to go into a raging fit. I believe that these kind of intolerant hissy fits are the result of a false tolerance movement that is taking America by storm. False tolerance says that we should accept all lifestyles, opinions, and values as equally true and valid and put them all on the same level. False tolerance is not about necessarily being respectful in your behavior towards different people. It's about agreeing with everything. False tolerance is in denial of reality because all lifestyles, opinions, and values aren't equally true and valid. Some lifestyles, opinions, and values are simply false and invalid. Certain values reap good results, while other values reap bad results. False tolerance is forceful and disrespectful because it tells you to compromise your values by placing something that is false and evil on the same level as what is true and good. It tells you to move your standards. False tolerance insults our God-given conscience by saying that evil, harmful, and destructive things are just as true and valid as what is good and healthy and righteous. False tolerance says that if we see something that is wrong, false, or offensive, we shouldn't say anything because that thing is just as true and valid as what we do. So in essence, false tolerance says if you see something that is wrong, false, and unhealthy, be quiet. Don't speak. Shut up. Unless you're agreeing with it, then you can talk. False tolerance does make one exception to its rule that all lifestyles, values, and ideals are equally true and that you shouldn't speak against anything. You're allowed to say that Christ and those who follow him are false because, well, they're prejudiced, narrow-minded bigots. False tolerance preachers run around trying to shut up anyone who disagrees with them, and if you disagree with them, they will call you intolerant to corner you, make you look evil, and shut you up. According to true tolerance, accepting all values and lifestyles is equally true, and compromising your own values to agree with someone else, that's not true tolerance. How can somebody be truly tolerant if they don't want anybody to disagree with them? True tolerance is the ability to be fair and respectful towards people whose lifestyle, opinions, and values are different from your own. True tolerance doesn't ask you to agree with anything or move your standards. It's about how you behave. How can false tolerance preachers tell other people to be tolerant when they themselves are intolerant? They don't want anybody to disagree with them. In reality, false tolerance preachers don't actually care about real tolerance. They aren't interested in treating people who are different than them with respect. All they care about is getting everybody to agree with them. So they simply redefine tolerance, since they refuse to actually be tolerant, and they try to make themselves look like they're taking the moral high ground, when in reality, they are illogical and intolerant. False tolerance preachers can't stand people who think, live, or believe differently than them, and they have all kinds of emotionally loaded terms for people who won't agree with them, like bigots, hate speech, prejudice, narrow-minded, homophobic, oppressive, discriminating. Of course, when they're disagreeing with something, they don't apply any of those names to themselves because, well, they're tolerant, right? False tolerance is turning America into a very intolerant country. The media and music industry are controlled from the top by super rich, hateful, intolerant liberals, which explains why there is very little diversity on TV. The media and music industry aren't interested in showing the different values and lifestyles that represent the diversity of America because they are intolerant of our views. Movie sales are down because people go to the theater or they look on the internet to see what movies are playing, and the movies are playing all these filth values that most people don't really agree with, whether you're a Christian or not. A lot of people don't agree with a lot of the things that are being promoted in these movies. The ruling elites, the media, the music industry, they're only interested in forcing their liberal filth values and agendas down our throats. And when you speak against it, they will call you intolerant. They'll say you're forcing your religion down their throat. They'll say you're using hate speech to silence you. The more people they can intimidate and silence with their empty rhetoric, the more people they can brainwash. This is no accident. It's a calculated attempt to desensitize and indoctrinate society into their way of life, into their points of view. The hope is that eventually society will become so depraved and so chaotic that they will have an excuse to bring in a military state under the guise of protecting us against evil and restoring order. What it all boils down to is that false tolerance preachers are intolerant and they don't want anyone to disagree with them. And this is unfortunate because false tolerance is turning America into a country that accepts everything, stands for nothing, doesn't speak out against what's wrong, and we're going to eventually fall for anything. There's nothing virtuous about a country that has no real standard because it pretends that all standards are equally valid. When you pretend that all standards are equally valid, you don't really have a standard. There is nothing virtuous about a country that says words don't really have any objective meaning, that everything is relative. This leads to misinterpretation of the law, and it allows the law to be twisted to implement things that are destructive to the social fabric. I seriously doubt that true tolerance will become a norm in this country. Both my spiritual insight and my natural observation lead me to think that things will continue to deteriorate to the point that one day the law will be nothing more than a tool used to promote and protect what is evil, and a weapon used to silence and persecute those who are truly